why are we seeing the same people all the time needing a disproportionate amount of services? Why are so many people who look the same class, same color, or same melanin status, always in such great need or in harm's way? And it wasn't because there's something wrong with us. It's not our flaw. We are the only people that are identified by our deficits instead of our assets. And so we do 1,000 good things, but what will get lifted up is a deficit. And so we see that whether it's in P. Diddy, Sean Diddy, or whatever his name is now, or, it's just all the time we live with that. And so for every one P. Diddy, there are thousands and thousands of other Black entertainers who are doing wonderful things, but we're not going to hear about them. And so I was really of the mindset that we must use drugs more than other people. We must commit crime more than other people, because that's what the statistics told me until I knew how to look and what to look for. The racial disparities that come into the criminal justice system start at the streets. So Black people and brown people are pulled over more. They're ticketed more.
Yeah.
And they are arrested more. So 13% of every population uses drugs. It's across the board.
Okay. Like an even...
It's pretty much even across all the races.
Okay.
It's 13%.
Even Asian communities?
Even Asian.
That's what I'm saying, because people don't think that.
We myth busting.
Because people don't think that, so I have to throw this out there. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so where you start seeing the differences is how they're treated. It's not... if it's only 13% of Black and brown people using drugs, there should only be 13% of us who are in court for using drugs. But that's where the disproportionate numbers start to come into play. We are sentenced at 60%, Black folks are, and we are sentenced to longer jail terms, whereas other people can come in, same charges, and be given an alternative to incarceration, something that we don't see enough and we don't invest in enough. And so getting past those myths about who we are, we have to look at how do we change this? And that's what Prop 47 was about. Prop 47 in 2014 changed these petty offenses to be misdemeanors. And the system has not stopped fighting against Prop 47 since it passed by the voters at a 60% pass rate. So they just succeeded in Prop 36. Law enforcement and corporations partnered up to bring to the voters in California what's called Prop 36, which passed overwhelmingly. And it's unfortunate because it's going to take $100 million every year out of health services and put it back into incarceration, to locking someone up in prison for a petty crime.
So that was kind of during the situation where people would shoplift, right? Certain money like that, right?
Yeah.
And so now that's no longer a petty crime anymore, right? For example, like shoplifting.
Right. So what they can do now
A
is
certain amount of money, right? A certain amount of...
It was $950, but now with the passage of Prop 36, it could be $950 over a course of time or a series of arrests. So it doesn't have to be $950. You could steal something for $200 today. Could be groceries, could be anything. And then you get caught again and again. So they put it together, and now you no longer have the option of it being treated as a misdemeanor. It's going to be treated as a felony, and you're going to prison if convicted. So what they did around Prop 47 is they said that you couldn't go to jail. People were going to jail for these petty offenses. They just weren't going for as long as the what they call public safety people wanted them to. And what was interesting in watching that whole thing unfold over the last 10 or 15 years is that prison population numbers were declining, and they had to, but their budgets weren't.
Ironically.
So CDCR never gave back any money.
What is CDCR?
California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation.
Okay.
Some people say the R is silent. But So they weren't giving money back, even though they were reducing their numbers. And they reduced their numbers because the 3-court judge panel mandated it. People were dying at the rate of 1 person a week.
In prison?
Unnecessarily in prison, not counting the people who were dying for a cause or medical condition, but just for no reason. And so that's when, at the time, the governor was Jerry Brown. He came up with what they call AB 109, and it restructured people going to prison, swinging them from prison to county authority in the jails. And so that helped to lower the numbers. Prop 47 helped to lower the numbers of people in prison. And Prop 36 is going to help them swell those numbers back up again.
And where's all the money going?
CDCR. And CDCR will allocate that money to more money for probation, more money for district attorneys, and more money for policing. And that's a pretty interesting investment, because they say what you invest in
Is what you believe in.
is what you believe in, and then where you pay your attention, that's what flourishes. And so if we're going to double down on the notion that incarceration is going to solve society's problems, we lose the opportunity to really invest in what we want. I want to see pathways to opportunity and success for young people. When I was a kid, we used to could work for the summer and would get paid good money. And so now we're in a society where there are no summer youth programs. I would like to see my tax dollars go to that, or to have places for young people to go, so that the trajectory isn't school to prison, but school to perfection, or school to whatever it is that our youth need. I don't know what they need to prepare for tomorrow's world. That world is beyond me.
Yeah, AI.
That's one, yeah. Yep. I mean, we have to think about doing that, or we're going to be totally unprepared for a future. And putting money into the prison ain't going to cut it, because mine ain't going. Yours ain't going. We're fighting too hard against a system that has used our children for fodder since its inception, whether it's slave patrol or sheriff. It's the same thing.
Same shit, different island. Tomato, tomato.
Yep.
Tomato, tomato.
Yeah.
You know, and it reminds me, I want to say a couple of things, and hopefully I can remember the other thing I wanted to say. You know, we mentioned that what you focus your attention on is what you believe, right? Or what they believe, or what they want to see happen,
Yeah.
right? And then we also declared and stated that majority of people that are going into prisons are the disenfranchised, mostly Black Americans, people, brown-skinned people. So it seems as though, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, and you guys, if you guys are enjoying this, by the way, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you guys are enjoying this, by the way, that it seems as though the upper to higher class people won't be affected by this Prop 36 change, as opposed to lower income families and lower income people. Would you agree?
I would totally agree with that. And when we talk about who's incarcerated, people always seem to conjure up the most dangerous looking person they could imagine. When the reality is almost 40% of the people incarcerated have mental illness. And the data shows that people with mental illness stay longer in jail or prison, and don't do as well. So we're looking at jail deaths across the country, because in custody deaths in Riverside County in 2022 were almost the highest in the state, and that's including LA.
Got you. What was the number? Do you remember?
22.
22 people? Mm-hmm. Got you.
22. And it's
That's in 1 year. That's in just
yeah,
the
that's
year
just in 1 year.
Got you.
That's 1 year. And there's only about a little over 3,000 jail population.
Okay.
So that was a huge number, and one of the highest in record. But the issues, some of them were suicides. And so when we get to talk about accountability, there are governance structures for the county jails and how they operate. And so even if you look at just their own operations. If a person with mental illness covers up their windows and their doors so you can't see in,
Yeah, like black it out type of thing?
yeah, you're supposed to go and check. That doesn't happen. It didn't happen on 3 occasions. And there was one occasion, this young lady was in the Riverside County Jail, and she called the CO through the radio and said, this is a wonderful day too. And they were like, is this an emergency? She said no. And she got off the call, and then the video showed her saying, to kill myself. So she was basically trying to tell the officer that she was going to commit suicide. He shut her down and said, is this an emergency? She said no. And she completed her statement, and she was dead within 20 minutes of that call. And no one came to check. No one found her until hours later. And so for some reason, we put a different value on the lives of people when they're incarcerated, or when they have mental illness, or they fall from the standard of perfection that we hold for ourselves and each other, right? You know, we're perfect, she's not. And so when we allow othering, because that's what it is, when we allow othering to come in and shape our responses to the treatment of other human beings, we are letting colonialism, we are letting corporations rule our thinking. We have to see ourselves and each other. We have to. That's what's going to save us. That's our grace.
It's reprogramming needs to be done.
I wish I knew, Antonio. But you know what? I'm confident that you will know, and that those who are coming up now, new leaders are being born every day, are going to have the answers that we need. There's not a lot left that I can do but pass the torch, right? I'll be retiring in about a year and a half from starting over. I leave in June of 2026.
Congratulations.
Yes. And I am looking forward to being a witness to the changes. I'm not retiring from life.
Yeah.
I will be working on the Community Land Trust, the Rochelle St. Hugh McGee Community Land Trust, and, you know, doing whatever the Creator puts in my life, in my path to do. I will gladly accept the assignment. But as far as seeing the kind of changes that I want to see, I think y'all gonna have to handle it.
Yeah, we got this. We got this,
right.
and even the ones before us. And I think a really important thing about the reprogramming is the proper representation, right? So for us to be represented in a positive light, so that way people's psyche can change about how they view us. So that way they don't say, oh, you know, even Ipiani, again, shout out to you, Ipiani, he mentioned, you know, he wears a do-rag and people all of a sudden give him a different look just because he's wearing a do-rag, you know? And so maybe if we had a president who wore a do-rag, maybe that might change, you know, maybe Trump with a do-rag might change things about perceptions of us. That's a joke. So Vonya wants to like throw up right now. She wants to like, really? Did he just say that? But
No, not at all.
ladies and gentlemen, but basically like showing us Black Americans, people of color, but specifically I want to say Black Americans because I think there is a disparity between what we call colorism. And so I think if people could start seeing us in more of a positive light as opposed to this ratchet, drug-filled, whatever, violent people as the main thing, then I know that it will change perception, and perception is everything. You know, if you believe you are what you believe. So if you believe that the world is flat, then the world is flat. But if you see, for example, someone with the do-rag building communities, building community gardens, donating their time to stuff like that, then maybe you might change your perspective of someone who wears do-rags, right?
Yep, definitely. And now I think I know why I be seeing Ipiani sport the cowboy hat. Because and sometimes he'll wear his do-rag underneath the cowboy hat. Ipiani, if you're out there and listening, you are phenomenal. I love you, and I love the work you do and the hope that you bring to the work that we all do. So I just want to say shout out to Ipiani too. And I think it's a lot. They called it respectability politics. I don't know what they call it now. But that whole thing it was based on what our ancestors had experienced and our elders. They looked for ways to shelter us from the discrimination and the judgment